So let's begin. It says Hank is keeping track of how many pieces of gum his friends ate during the first month of school. The number of pieces are 9, 12, 7, 5, 15, 2, 20, 9, 10, and 25. Question 1. It says create a box and whisker plot. So throughout the past week and a half, we have been learning about minimum, maximum, median, quartile 1, and quartile 3. And we know that all those things create up a box and whisker plot, and we have to find them. And the easiest way to find them is to start by listing our data from least to greatest order. So that is exactly what I did here. The next thing we want to do is we want to start filling in some of these things that help us create a box and whisker plot. So if you look, the minimum is going to be the smallest number, which is 2, and you know that the maximum is going to be the largest number, which is 25 in our data. Now to find the median, we need to cross off one of the small numbers and one of the large numbers, and we have to keep doing that until we're left with one number. However, in some cases, like this one, we are left with 2 numbers. When you are left with 2 numbers, you have to go off to the side and find the average of them. So that means you're going to add them up, and then you're going to divide by 2. So if I take 19 and I divide by 2, okay, 2 can't go into 1, but 2 can go into 19 9 times, and that is 2 times 9 is 18. I'm left with a remainder of 1. Now, we don't like remainders, so remember, we put a decimal, nail it to the roof, put a 0, bring our 0 down. Now we have 10. Can 2 go into 10? Yep, 5 times. And we get a remainder of 0. So we know that our median is going to be 9.5. Okay, again, when you have 2 numbers left for your median, you write them off to the side, add them up, and then divide by 2 because you added 2 numbers to begin with. Now, how do we find our quartile 1 and quartile 3? Well, now that we know our median, I'm going to draw a big fat line right where that median would be. And anything to the left of that line is part of our data for quartile 1. So we know this is quartile 1 data. And anything to the right of that line is data for quartile 3. So this is quartile 3 data. Now, when we say quartile 1, all that really means is we want to find the median of the data left in quartile 1. So let's find the median. Again, cross one out on the low end, cross one out on the high end. And this time we end up with a nice number as our median for quartile 1, which is 7. Let's do the same thing for quartile 3 data. Cross one off on the low end and the high end. And when we do that, we're left with 15 is our median for quartile 3. Now, all that is left is to create our box and whisker plot. The easiest one to do is the minimum and the maximum. So I'm going to put a line right above the minimum on a number line. Okay, so I have my minimum graphed. Now I'm going to go and graph my maximum. Okay, so this is basically the beginning of our whisker plot and the end of our whisker plot. Now, the median, quartile 1 and quartile 3 are what makes our box. So I'm going to go and put a line right where my median would be, and I'm going to make it kind of bigger. Then I'm going to go, so I graphed my median. Then I'm going to go and graph my quartile 1. Again, I'm going to make it about the same height as my median. And then I'm going to go and graph my quartile 3. Now, these 3 bigger lines are going, like I said before, are going to connect. I don't want to use blue. Let's use black. Are going to connect to make our box. Now, this is the box. Now, just like a walrus has whiskers, we have to create our whiskers. So we're going to create our whiskers by connecting our box to our minimum and maximum with a straight line. Now we have our data. And we have our data above here that we found. Now we have a graph. Now let's use our data and graph to answer the questions below. It says, what percent of Hank's friends chewed more than 7 pieces? Well, if I find 7, 7 is right here. Now, we know that each section of this graph, and I'm just going to highlight it, we know that there is one section right here, 2 sections, 3 sections, and 4 sections. So think about $1. If you have $1 and you break it up into 4 sections, you would have quarters, right? So now think about each section of these as a quarter. Well, if you think about each section as a quarter, what percent does each section that I highlighted in a different color represent? It represents 25%. So this yellow box is 25% of my graph. This green box is 25% of my graph. The same thing with the blue box, it's 25%. And if you would have guessed it by now, the purple box is also 25%. So if we want to know chewed more than 7 pieces, let's look where 7 is. We know 7 is right here, so we're looking to the right. How many different sections, or how many colored sections are there to the right? There's 1, 2, 3. So that means I have 3 sections. 3 out of 4 sections is 3/4, and we know 3/4 is 75%. All right, which percent ate between 7 and 15 pieces? So here is 7 pieces, and here is 15 pieces. So what percent ate between that? Well, I have 2 boxes between these 2 numbers, and each box is worth 25%, or each section of my graph is worth 25%. So the green section is 25 and the blue section is 25. If I add those together, I am at 50%. Last question that I have here. What is the range of pieces Hank's friends could have eaten? So range, it's saying what is the least amount they could have eaten and what's the maximum. So what is the range? Well, if we look at our graph, we know that the minimum, they could have eaten at least 2 pieces, but they could have also eaten all the way up to 25 pieces. So we know the range is anywhere from 2 to 25. Like I said, today's homework is very similar. It's going to be one problem, just a problem exactly like this. But otherwise, have a great weekend. Bye, guys.